Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, a new study says the key to happiness is having another person in your life.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Oh, you're welcome, Pookie. Glad I could be here for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a Hallmark card.
Yeah.
Pretty
Makes
soon
me
it'll
very
be having a
warm
drone
inside.
in your life.
No. I got you, Pookie. Sonny and Cher all over again. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Rockets trounce the Warriors, the Caps and Panthers move on, and Brian Windhorst joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Minnesota Timberwolves eliminating the Lakers from the playoffs last night in Los Angeles, winning 103-96 and taking the series 4-1. Rudy Gobert, who had been essentially absent from this series, had a career playoff night. 27 points, 24 rebounds. Wow. Wilbon, you were there. Why did the Lakers fall short, and what does this mean for the Timberwolves?
Well, Tony, the Lakers aren't good enough. I'm going to paraphrase because I did send a text to our dear friend Charles Barkley, who took a lot of criticism for just saying constantly the Lakers aren't good enough. And they're not. Their roster's not good enough. And we knew that. I'm not blaming Rob Pelinka. You get Luka Doncic and then you worry about the rest. You can't fix everything at once. And they couldn't. They don't have size. They're more than size challenged. And then, J.J. Redick, took some calculated risks that did not work. He didn't put Jackson Hayes out there even for a minute, and that's a guy who maybe has a little bit of a rim protection element to him at 6'11" or whatever he is, and he could at least see, Rudy Gobert's chin. And Rudy Gobert instead went wilt. 27 and 24 for a guy averaging 3 and 6 in the series. Yeah. And they got burned by those choices, Tony. And the Lakers did not seem, early in the game, they didn't seem to have a pep to their step. Luka goes down at halftime after a hard foul, and his back is balky. And Luka was abused defensively more than any alleged great player, MVP type player you can imagine. 16 times he was a primary defender, and 9 times the Minnesota Timberwolves just blew by him. Not beat him, blew by him as if he was you or me. And Luka Doncic is a one-way player. He's a great one-way player. He's a magician on that one end. But he doesn't play the other end. And the Minnesota Timberwolves said, have some of this. And they did, even though they were 7 for 47 on three-pointers. And their best player, Ant-Man, was barely there in terms of scoring. So a lot happened, Tony. None of it good for the Lakers.
Yeah, I like the phrasing of the question. Why did they come up short? They came up short because they are short, physically short. LeBron James plays center for them much of the time. I think back to that trade that they negated a couple of months ago for Mark Williams, right, in Charlotte, who's 7 feet tall, who could have helped them. And I still wonder why they negated that. Look, I understand there was optimism around the Lakers at the beginning of the series. They had come in third in the West. They seemed, with Luka and LeBron, to have just great enthusiasm for what was going on. And then they lose 4 out of 5 games. They lose to a team that traded away its number one big man, Karl Anthony Towns. My God, I didn't expect the Lakers to win the championship. I expected them to be more competitive in this particular series, more competitive than going out meekly the way that they went out. But I guess that's because they had an upheaval when they got Luka, halfway through, a little more than halfway through the season, and they've got a rookie coach. I think they come back probably better next year. In terms of Minnesota, just very quickly, they were in the conference final last year. They're a good team. Yes. I didn't like the trade they made, but this is not a surprise. And now you get to see if your boy Ant-Man is ready for his close-up. You get to see.
It's not, Tony, it's not an upset. Minnesota's a better team, a more fully formed team, a more experienced team that had gone deeper last year. And they do have a star in Ant-Man, even though he didn't have to be a star last night. They gave it to the Lakers. They gave it to him in every way imaginable. Last night's game between the Dubs and Rockets wasn't much of one. The Rockets led by 30 in the first half. And Steve Kerr benched his starters midway through the third. The series now heads back to San Francisco with the Warriors leading 3-2 Game 6 tomorrow night. Tone, did last night's lopsided result change how you're seeing this series or feel like just a one-off?
Let me just be very clear about this. For the Golden State Warriors, the only thing that matters in this series is Game 6 at home. That's it. Last night didn't matter. There was no jeopardy for them to lose that game, and they played knowing there was no jeopardy. Their starters scored 40 points. Mike, that is the lowest total for 5 starters in the history of the NBA playoffs. I bet you never thought that Steph Curry would be in the history books for something like that. Curry had 13 points. Jimmy Butler had 8. They were 6 of 22 from the floor. And if they win Game 6, none of that matters. Absolutely none of that matters. And, I mean, that's the way. They were in this position a few years ago against Memphis. They were up 3-1. They go to Memphis for Game 5. They lose by 39 points. They're down 55 at some point. Doesn't matter. They go back home. They win. They win the series. They win the championship. Look, this is a very veteran team. They know where they stand. They know all that matters is winning Game 6.
Tony, I think I believe what you believe. I do. I think I believe that. And the calm with which particularly Steph and Jimmy went about talking about the postmortem, it helps convince me of that. But, Tony, sports are weird. And sometimes you get young guys. Houston's not ready yet. That's been my position. Detroit's a little closer to ready. Houston not yet. And they're both coming, all right? But they're not there yet. And Jimmy Butler expressed the same way you did, and he had such calm about him, and Steph had such calm, and Steve Kerr had such calm, that I think I believe that. But, man, these dudes are young and strong and fast and acrobatic. They fly through the air like drones. I think that the Warriors know enough.
They got to win Game 6, Mike.
I know, Tony, but once you give a team, the worst thing you can give a young team that's not ready yet is a dose of confidence. And they have a little bit of that now. Again, I'm not picking Houston. I'm just saying it's maybe more complicated than you think it is. Maybe.
The Warriors have earned your trust on this one thing. If they say they are unconcerned, I believe them. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but they know that this is the game they have to win. Let's move to hockey. Both the Washington Capitals and the Florida Panthers won their first-round playoff series last night. The Capitals took out Montreal in 5 games, beating the Canadiens 4-1 last night in Washington. The defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers took out interstate rival Tampa Bay in 5 games as well, going on the road, beating the Lightning 6-3. Wilbon, which team looks more impressive right now?
Tony, probably Florida. And just for this reason, to go on the road and win that kind of way, that's what champions do. Oh, wait, they're defending champions. Look, I know a lot of this season has been justifiably about Alexander Ovechkin and his chase down of Wayne Gretzky for a record that we thought was, unreachable. But Matthew Tkachuk, I mean, my goodness, this guy is becoming legendary. He missed 25 games, and at the end of the season, his team went 7-10-1, and they didn't look ready for any of this, and now here they are, and they seem like they will follow him to hell in a gasoline suit. So I got to say the defending champs. Like in any sport, I'm going to give my nod to the defending champs until I see otherwise.
Okay. So you said yesterday that I was a homer. I was asked to pick a game last night. I picked Washington over Montreal, which happened, and you looked in the camera and you declared me a homer. So what I'm going to say now might surprise you a little bit, because I also think that it is the Florida Panthers right now that are more impressive, because they have Tkachuk back, because they made that trade for Brad Marchand. I think look, Montreal was the last team to qualify for the playoffs in the East. They had the least amount of points in the East. So when Washington beats them, beating a 1, beating an 8 is not that big a deal. Tampa Bay is a much better team than Montreal. Tampa Bay finished 3rd in the East. Tampa Bay had the best goal differential in the East. Tampa Bay's better than Florida, and Florida drilled them, okay? Florida looks really good. Now, Florida was +7 in goals in that series, and Washington was only +6. I root for the Capitals, you know that. But right now, it smells like Florida is sniffing the finish line like they've done before. Let's take a break. Coming up, we've got some follow-up questions about where the Lakers go from here for our great friend Brian Windhorst.
We're also going to ask him whether the Bucks could really trade Giannis.
See, I probably am a homer.
Next series.
Let's get back into the future of the Lakers with our great friend, ESPN senior NBA writer and the host of the Hoop Collective podcast, Mr. Brian Windhorst. Brian, most people seem to agree that the Lakers have a size problem. They don't have enough size. Is this their biggest problem? And if it is, how do they go about fixing it?
Yeah, it's their biggest problem. They've got a couple of problems. And, I actually think where the Lakers are right now is reminiscent of where the Dallas Mavericks were 2 years ago. That was the year they traded for Kyrie Irving. Remember the big midseason trade? They didn't have size, they didn't have perimeter defense, and they missed the playoffs. So they went out and drafted Derek Lively, who became a rim-protecting lob threat. They went out and signed Derek Jones Jr., a wing athlete, wing defender. And then later on that year, they acquired Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington. These are not star players, but they were exactly the type of players Luka needed, along with Kyrie. They all fit together. Bam, they make a run to the finals. This is the kind of makeover the Lakers need. They don't need to retrofit the entire roster. They have their star players, but they definitely need size, specifically a rim protector and a guy who can be a lob threat for Luka. They need to go out there and do that. They have 1 first-round pick, 4 different pick swaps that they can trade. They have 3 or 4 expiring contracts, and depending on what LeBron wants to do with his deal, they might even be able to dip into free agency for a little bit. So let's see where they are on September 1st, and they may end up having built out this team. But this team is deeply flawed, and we saw that over the last 2 weeks.
Brian, you uttered the phrase that'll transition us to the next question, depending on what LeBron wants to do. And it was interesting sitting in there last night and listening to him. I thought he gave just a very genuine, real answer to sort of what he's going to do, which is essentially, I don't know, but much more in depth than that. And I thought revealing, I do not see LeBron retiring after this season. Is there any way you, who know him much better, much longer, do you see anything different?
I think he will continue to play. I don't know he'll continue to play, but I do think he likes where this Lakers team is, and he loves being a Los Angeles Laker, for better or worse. And so he has an opt-out in his contract that he's got to decide on by late June. I would expect him to opt out and re-examine what he wants to do. He's been doing this for the last couple of years. He's got a no-trade clause. He certainly would want to keep that, and he certainly could talk to the Lakers. Last year, he offered to take less money. He said, if you can sign these 3 or 4 players, I'll take less. If he is willing to offer that again, the Lakers could potentially add even another piece. Last year, they weren't able to do it. This year, they might be able to. People want to play in LA. People are going to want to play alongside Luka. The one thing I think you will see, based on what Rob Pelinka said today, Austin Reeves will be a Laker next year. There is some belief that that's a guy they could trade. I don't think they're thinking of that at all. They like the way Austin, Luka Doncic, and LeBron fit together, and I think you're going to see those 3 guys for sure. Everybody else on the roster, except for maybe Bronny James, is probably up in the air.
All right, we'll stay with the Lakers because we got to get to the J.J. Redick of it all. He's coming under some fire. He's catching some heat right now for Game 4, not subbing in the second half. And then Game 5 for not doing anything to stop Rudy Gobert from turning into Wilt with 27 and 24. Brian, where are you on this? I know this morning on Get Up you were critical and said he was immature at times in his approach. Let's elaborate. What did you mean?
Yeah, I don't like saying it because we all have a personal relationship with JJ, and I have such an immense respect for him, and I think he's done a really good job this year. When you are a first-year head coach, you make mistakes. And I don't know whether JJ would say that today or he's going to say that in 5 years. By the way, go to any coach who's had success and you ask them about their first year, they're probably going to close their eyes and go, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And I suspect that JJ is going to say that about the way he operated in this series. I think at times JJ seethes. I think he's really smart. I think he's been great for the Lakers, but I think sometimes he seethes. And that puts him in a bad position. And I think he was seething the last few days. I think he made a mistake with how he played those older guys on short rest that many minutes in Game 4. He, instead of recognizing it, he just doubled down, was almost defiant about it in between Games 4 and 5. And he was still seething coming into the game last night, as he demonstrated in the pregame press conference. I wasn't in the locker room. I don't know how he related to the team, but the Lakers were not ready to play to start that game. They did not come out like a team desperate. And regardless of what you think about the question, whether you think the question he got where he stomped out of the press conference was fair or not, that doesn't matter. A coach handles their business to handle the situation. I think JJ would agree that he needed to handle that better. And I just don't think he was as good as he can be, and I expect in the future that he will be much better. And you always know that. You know that when you hire a coach who's young and never done it before, that you're going to go through this, and the Lakers did. And I think JJ will eventually be even better than he was this year.
We will get you out of here on this, and I'll make it easy because it won't be about the Lakers. It'll be about Giannis Antetokounmpo. What are the chances that Milwaukee actually deals him?
On one hand, Tony, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar left in 1975. They traded him in 1975. They didn't get back to the finals until 2021. Generations. So to let a player like this go is brutal for an organization. But you look at what the Bucks have, where they're going, and how expensive they are and their stuff that they've traded. I don't see a viable way forward in the short term that they can create a championship roster around him. He may disagree with me, and he may say, yes, we can, and I'm going to stay here. And if he does that, it would be amazing. But I think it might be best for the team and for Giannis to look for a trade. I don't know for sure that's the way it's going to go, but if you really analyze the situation, I think most people would arrive at that conclusion. And that question, that potential mystery, is the biggest thing hanging over the NBA offseason. A lot of business is going to be on hold, including other star players potentially on the trade market, until that gets answered. And if it does get answered, then where would Giannis want to go? Because he's going to have control of this thing.
Wow. Thank you, Brian. Love to hear that stuff.
Brian,
it's fun.
Appreciate it.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Aaron Judge caps off an extraordinary April. Wait for some of these numbers.
And will the Pistons even up that series with the Knickerbockers tonight? Tony's on edge.
Not on edge.